Hey everybody, we are currently live. Welcome again to Surviving Quarantine by Spreading Life. And I'm so excited to have one of my good friends here, Kim, who I've met through the Chattanooga Women's Leadership Institute. And one of the big things that we have been collectively talking about is moving forward as women, but I think just general today, we're going to be talking about moving forward from COVID-19, even though we really don't know what forward is possibly look like, but we can also navigate our path, and this is what we've talked a lot about. So having that, remember, anybody that is watching, we'd love to see and know who's watching, so please put comments. And if you can, please like, subscribe, and share this content, as we hope to continue to bring some positivity and some good conversation to your newsfeed. So let's get started. Please introduce yourself, Ms. Kim.
Hey everyone, it's good to see you, or see you virtually anyway. I guess you're technically seeing us, but it's really good to be here with you, Emily, and it's exciting. My name is Kim Shumpert, and I am the Executive Director of an organization here in Chattanooga called the Chattanooga Women's Leadership Institute. And as the name implies, we work specifically with professional women. We are a professional women's association to help equip and empower, and our mission is to increase the influence and leadership capabilities of women.
Yes, that's awesome. And I know how much you have impacted my life and the work that you do, and so I am in deep gratitude for you for that. But let's talk about the conversation of moving forward together. What does that even mean for people?
You know, in our channels, in our network, we actually started a series called Forward Together, which, you know, has a tendency, it has the thread of becoming kind of cliche. But we actually already had adopted this as our theme for the year, was forward. And, you know, there's sort of the big macro ideas around moving forward. Obviously, we want women to see more pay equity. We want some of the big buckets, more flexibility with their time, professional women. What's interesting is COVID has sort of like forced us all into this, you know, flexible work schedule, right? Which I love, and I really hope that it's one of those things that sticks now that we've proven how productive we can be with it. But, you know, I think when we think about Forward Together, what I keep thinking about, you mentioned that things are really unknown. There's a lot of unknown right now. So what I think about is really anchoring back to what our values are and pulling that forward. I was talking to somebody earlier today about how a situation like this, I've been surprised in both directions. I've been surprised in our better angels and our darker angels, and how people have responded to this. You know, it's been really you really get to see the fabric of somebody when you come to this kind of situation. And so, you know, the people who are really jumping in, and it is just within their DNA to run out and help everybody, you know. Germs be damned. I mean, they just, I'm there. And I love that spirit. I really, truly love that spirit. And I probably have that spirit a lot. And then there are those of us who maybe we're a little more wired that way, but in the roles that we play, we actually are having to step back and be very behind the scenes and try to continue this wave of remember our values, remember our values, remember our values, because we get so in panic and crisis mode that it's easy to lose those. And so I think, you know, voices like yours and what you're doing here, and lots of voices around right now, are beginning to shift that conversation. And we're beginning to pivot towards, what do we want the next, you know, I want people to be kinder to each other, right? I want people to give some grace. I want people to, heck, I'd love to just not wear makeup anymore. You know, I mean, just unedited. I want us to be unedited. So I think it's neat that we've got an opportunity to explore some of that right now.
And I love that. It's the shifts in perspective, and you've heard me say it. It's about staying hot, and hot is humble, open, and transparent. So in this space, what are some ways that people can stay hot and stay real, and not? I heard somebody say the other day, and I loved what they said, is that they had a vulnerability hangover. Like they opened up so much that then it was like, oh, I got to take it all back, you know? So how do we have this space that it's not too much, but it's not too little?
Yeah. Yeah. I think those of us who are in spaces where we can lead have to create that platform, and we have to lead that, by example. I actually got asked that same question on a podcast that I did last week. And I said, what's challenging about leading in this space is that you're trying to lead as an authentic leader without oversharing, right? And so you walk that fine line of because when you do it, you open the door for other people to do it. And so when you put yourself out there, I love that, humble, open, and transparent. And I think we've got to, one of the simple things that I keep encouraging in all of these meetings is for people to turn their camera on. Like, we just need to see each other. And the tendency there, again, in an edited, sort of more traditional work environment, is that I want to come, and I've done this, but I want to come with my headshot, as my representation to people, because I don't really want them to see me in my pajamas, But there is power in that. There's real value in being the first to say, I'm not having a good day, and I need you to see me not having a good day, and understand that I'm working towards a better day, because it gives other people permission to do that, right? So, there's some simple things that we can do now that become habits later, that are values that we build on, I think.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that's the part of it, is noticing it, the awareness of it, and then doing something about it too. If that's what somebody had this question, it's like, what do you want to stick after this? What is something like after this that you want to stick? And for me, I think that's some of the some call it a more female qualities, but of that vulnerability and the caring. But I don't put gender to it. I think that's just something as humans that we want to care for each other. Naturally, sometimes we have these negative voices that come in that may be yelling a little bit louder than others. So let's talk about that for a second, about accepting in the moving forward process. There's things that we need to accept, and there's things that we need to kind of like set aside. And what we talk about, it's what we're for in the forward process. And so I had a conversation with a family member the other day, and they were saying, and they didn't mean it in this way, but I took offense to it, and I was trying not to accept it, that I need to gain better homekeeping skills, and and another person said that I need to focus more on my house and making it clean than on my business. That was something that, your facial expression is telling everything that I felt.
I should be edited, and I'm not.
Okay. So those things, I don't want to move forward. I love my family, but I love my business, and I love giving purpose, and I love what I'm doing because it gives me sanity, and I think it makes me better as a business leader. So what are some of those things that can stick for us to go forward, and what are we for together?
So I think one of the biggest opportunities that we have right now, and I do to some extent believe that this is gender specific, but I think it's something that we can teach. There was a Forbes article that came out that talked about what the countries doing the best with coronavirus have in common, and it was all women. I had, within a short order of time, I had 4 people who passed that article on to me. And then I was asked, why do you think that is? Why do you think that's a common denominator between how they've ordered this and how they've organized the reopening process? And I said, in my mind, just observation, I feel like women have been wired for adaptation since the dawn of time. Like, we just have. We take the confines of the policy, of the rule, or whatever it is, and we say, okay, this part of it works for me, this part of it doesn't. I'm going to work around this and figure out how to do this. So, because so often a lot of the ideas, it takes us a long time to get to an action sometimes as women, but that's not a bad thing. We think about it and we analyze, and there's a balance there, to be sure. But I think one of the greatest things that we have to teach the world is adaptation, because we have been, I don't know if victim is the right word. That's not the word I want to use, but we've been the ones who've had to do that more. When all of this happened, to your point about keeping house, when all of this happened, I think by and large, we can probably all collectively agree and this is a generality, it's not an absolute, but by and large, it was the women who absorbed this situation, right? It was the women who all of a sudden had to be at home. They had to turn on their computers. They had to turn on their kids' computers. I had to go out and buy a printer for my home because we didn't have one. I had to make sure that my kids had a schedule. I had to redesign my entire space for all the things, right? And that has been a story that has repeated itself over and over. Meanwhile, my husband didn't have to do that, and that's not a knock on him at all, because he has done everything he possibly can. But for the first week and a half, his office didn't close. And so, women have worked to manufacture their lives in order to be flexible and responsive to that. And I think that we have a platform to speak from about how that works. And we haven't done that. We do all of this, but we don't promote it, and we don't self-promote. And I think that's the opportunity of the next however long, as we recover. Women have got to own the responsibility to teach the rest of the world how to adapt and how this works for the purposes of productivity for all people considered.
I love that. And two things that resonate with me is one, I've said this, me and my husband had this conversation last week, and it was that we're all in the same storm, but we're on different boats. And he's in a yacht right now because nothing's changed for him, really. And he's open to it. Like, he would stay home every day if he could, but he's out. And so it hasn't affected his business. It hasn't affected his work, and it hasn't. For me, I am a people person. I keep laughing and joking. I feel like the Little Mermaid singing, "I want to be where the people are." So that is my theme song for like this time. And so it's the difference in the roles and the playing, and it is, I'll say, as a female that has. And then the other thing that I see about is how you were talking and discussing on, again, the moving the forward, and what are we going to keep, and challenging those norms that I think as females, it's our role. And my faith is something that's big for me, and something that's been laid on my heart is, I keep getting told this is your stage, because I really have an issue with self-confidence. It may not go out on this side, but that's something that I keep getting told is, this is your stage. I allowed you to be there. But I think that's what a lot of females feel like, is that when you're the only girl in the room, are you a token? Are you, and trying to figure out what your area and where you fit in. And so I want to encourage anybody that's listening to this. This is your stage. This is your time. Go on it. You were not put in the position where you were for no reason. You're put there.
If you have ever been told otherwise, either out loud or silently with the unwritten rules, it's time to break those rules.
Amen.
And that is, you know me well enough to know that's where I get really passionate, because a lot of what we spend our time doing, put another way, we have a business model because women have been told for such a long time lies about what it is that they are capable of, what they are responsible for, who they are responsible for. We've been told, mostly in covert ways, that your opinion is only good so far as it fits into this environment and that environment and that environment. And, there's all sorts of reasons for that. And maybe that's more of a Southern thing than in other places, but I think it transcends. The data tells us it transcends anyway. And the more we can talk about, again, the reason we've been doing our Forward Together series is to spotlight dynamic women who are doing things and who are really raising their hand and rising to the occasion right now, because we've been doing it for eons, but we haven't been giving women credit for it, and to your point, it's not just women. It's not just women. But, today I had a guest on, and she was talking about, she named off the people who are on sort of her task force. And she was talking about all the different roles. And she stopped and she looked back and she goes, you know what? They're all women. I didn't even think about that, but they're all women. So it's an afterthought. And I want it to be a forethought. I want us to say, what team do we need to put together? Who needs to be on that team? And which women are the best ones to get X, Y, and Z where we need to be? So I would love for us to be able to spotlight that and launch more.
And I think that's true. And seeing that we all have value, in that I know you specifically talk about women, but it's just bringing the geniuses together, and that gender shouldn't matter. We should all have this equal right to be able to show our worth and come to the stage. And so, and I see that Megan is on. I also see Rhonda. If you're on and if you have any questions, please let us know. And I also see that Megan put outsource hiring someone to clean is less expensive than therapy. Yeah. Or marriage counseling, either or, it doesn't matter. So
it's true.
Amen to that one. So does anybody have any questions? If you do, again, please leave your comments in the comments below. Next question for you is, fast forward a year from now. What do you think? What do you think it's going to look like? Or what do you want it to look like?
Ooh, it depends on what sector you're talking about. What I want it to look like is, and this is a really harsh way of putting it, for the world that I'm in, I want it to force us to work better together. Amen. I want it to pull us out of our silos. I want it to pull us out of our competition. I want it to pull us out of our I alone mentality. Because if anything, I feel like this has been a very humbling experience to teach us that we're not meant to do things alone, and myself included. I tend to want to take the bull by the horns and just get going on things. Oh yeah. Working with people slows that down, to be honest. But people are the key to making it all work. And so I think I want to see businesses invest in people. I want to see them understand that people fall in the asset line item on their financial statements and not the liability line item. And for that to matter. Yep.
It's that people first, and we've had tons of conversations about that, is that people first, profits later, and your bank account should be reflected about how much you care about your people. And that's something that I'm excited to see after this. And I think I truly do think will come from this. And because I don't know, have you seen, I've seen it, the networking and the connections, like Megan. Megan's a great example that's on here. We got connected over LinkedIn, and she is in Louisiana. I hope you're in Louisiana. I know you're somewhere around there. New Orleans. And just the conversation. And she even posted something today about mom guilt, and that's something that we've been able to connect on, because that's something that's so real right now. And I think it's that people first mentality that's really starting to have that shift in. And I love it. And I'm excited.
Well, and think about that. I'm so glad that you brought that up, because think about that guilt came on because overnight you were asked to take on 2 or 3 other full-time jobs that were already being done by other people or other systems in your life. And even if you didn't personally have to, and if you were able to outsource that, there was still a societal expectation that you were the one who was supposed to manage it all, right? And I think that's kind of what I'm talking about, is that we've got to shift the expectation a little bit, such that it's not difficult for people to have those conversations around, I'm not supposed to know how to be their teacher. Like, I need your help, Dad. Come sit down and do math with the other kid, and we have those at our house, and very real conversations around, look, I'm trying to run an organization. That means that I'm going to be totally in a virtual world, which means somebody's got to, make sure that these kids aren't running around in the background, hopefully. But, and so we are really working together as a team. And what you're not seeing is him. He's outside fishing in the pond with one of my daughters right now. He's not, hey mama. And so we've got to shift the conversation. It's not going. We can't keep expecting men to shift the conversation for us. We have to shift that conversation. And so I think that's the opportunity and we shift it by spotlighting in a very positive way women who are spreading optimism, to your point. And that's what you're trying to do with this, which I commend.
Well, thank you so much. And I think that's too, is as a woman, that I'm grateful for, like, and I think that's something we might go on quickly, is the expectation. My husband has no expectation for me to clean the house or to have, like, he actually does the laundry, he does the dishes, like he does some of more of the female roles per se. But the expectation is from other generations.
Yes.
So that and they're females that are putting that. So I think as a female to another female, how can we have those conversations to promote that what we're doing is okay.
Mhm.
It is totally okay to be doing what we're doing, and we're still great moms, and we're still good business leaders, and we're still good spouses.
Absolutely. Again, I think there's strength in numbers, which is why we're trying to do what we're doing, because what you're talking about is happening at the micro level, right? We're having those conversations. We're marrying men who already get that, right? I mean, like that's not even something I had to really convince my husband of. You know, he's always been probably more, equal in this than I am some days. But, the issue doesn't come necessarily from within our direct immediate family. It's the pressure from society as a whole that hasn't changed the conversation. And, I think we've got to really examine why that is, and get the courage to speak back to that, and to say to that woman who makes that implication, why do you think it should be that way? Have you realized what's changed since you were raising children? Have you walked through all of the different things? And so I think wise women, some of the wise older women that I know who've raised their children and who are my mentors, will admit, if they're being honest, they'll admit you've got it a lot harder. I know that people give millennials in particular kind of a bad rap, but in reality, those of us raising children right now, it's tough. I know it's not the Great Depression. I understand it's not some of those things, but it is still a different kind of tough. And figuring out how to do all that, and to try to be successful in the thing that you've chosen to be your passion, and to really scale it up. That's what gets me, is a lot of women self-suppress because they just don't think that they can have a large business and do everything else that they're supposed to do.
Yeah.
So who's telling you what you're supposed to do?
And then do you need to even accept it? And that's the other thing too on that, is surrounding yourself. And I'm blessed, and that's one thing I do want to promote is CWLI. So if you guys have not heard about it, if you've ever heard me talk, I've talked about your sphere of influence and being around. They don't have to be like-minded, because we're not all like-minded, but we share some common values that, as I've joked with you, that my favorite thing is, this isn't a victim mentality group. This is seriously, I promise you, this is a move forward group. It really is. It's like, how can we change, and how can we elevate this to another level? So if you're in the Chattanooga area, but even if you're not, CW, because I'm actually technically not in Chattanooga. I'm an hour or 45-minute drive, but I do a lot with y'all because I believe in the message, and I think it is something that is so needed no matter where you're at. So it is a women's leadership institute.
It is.
To be in Chattanooga.
I was on a call with a business owner from New York recently who was considering relocating one of her employees to Chattanooga. And they do economic development, they do environmental testing, and all that kind of stuff. And so it's a very sophisticated business, and the kind of business we'd love to attract to Chattanooga. And so I was telling them about our organization, and they're out of Saratoga, New York, which you would expect to be maybe a little more sophisticated and advanced than we are. And they said, we would absolutely love to have something like CWLI in our community. And I mean, it amazes me how thirsty women are for something that's moving their voice, the collective voice forward. So, yeah.
I agree. Well, thank you so much for joining me today, Kim. And again, if y'all have not, check out CWLI, great group and great women there, so that are moving this forward together. So, and thank you for all that was watching. I hope that you have an awesome and blessed day.
Thanks, Emily. Keep up the good work, my friend.
Thank you.